see. But the bottom line here is that a weak rupee for a global investor who's investing into India is never great news. Mayuresh, as of now, there is no macro panic. But now, is it a matter of maybe days, if not weeks, someone is going to recognize that weak rupee is bad news?
Good morning, Nikunj. No, clearly, I think if you're looking at all the macro factors and your discussions, I think that does pose as a headwind, because with a weak rupee and what you're probably seeing in terms of crude prices, that does inflate your import bill when it specifically comes to crude. Now, your trade deficit, which has probably come through in the month gone by at $18 billion odd, I think that is in no way helping the overall trade imbalance. And again, I think a weaker rupee doesn't mean that your exports are going to have a burgeoning effect, because I think the other currencies have depreciated or devalued to a certain extent to make the export competitiveness even more intense. So yes, I think these macro headwinds probably does pose an risk to the markets. I think the kind of liquidity that the markets are witnessing and the wall of worries that the markets keep on climbing, I think there has to be some amount of sanity returning. Whether that returns in the next week, next month, I think it's tough to say. But yes, I think the markets will be cognizant if this continues over a period of time. And you might see some amount of jitteriness then pan out for risk on assets like equities.
Working on a financial package. They are looking at bailing out some of the beleaguered airliners. How do you think this entire story is going to build up?
So morning, Ayesha. I think three ways of looking at this. One, I think obviously the kind of parameters that you're talking about with ATF prices going through the roof and the rupee depreciating against the dollar, that does hit their earnings, because the cost per available seat kilometer, including fuel, goes up substantially. They are not able to pass through their selling cost, which means the revenue per available seat kilometer actually doesn't improve in the same proportion that the costs have gone up, which impacts their yields. Now, clearly, that is what has transpired in terms of balance sheets for all the three listed names in the Indian aviation space. The other element in terms of how you're probably looking at these variables, and one really assumes crude to probably stay in this elevated range, rupee probably recovering a tad bit, but still at lower levels than what we have witnessed over the past few quarters. That is going to take a translationary hit in terms of expense accounting and revenue recognition. So I think the yields are going to remain soft for some period of time. The third element obviously is that you're probably entering the weakest quarter that the aviation industry probably faces. So Q2 is the weakest quarter. So in all this perspective and keeping all these variables in place, I think the softness in reported numbers can very well continue. Now, the relief package that we are probably hearing about, or what the street is probably envisaging, I think if that comes, that becomes a temporary kind of a sentiment positive for these stocks. But I think unless any of these variables changes for the positive for these companies, I think a drastic change in terms of earnings projections and upgrades looks a little bit difficult. So again, I think entering a weak quarter, variables not changing, I think I've stayed away from the sector. I'll still stay away from the sector.
Okay, that's the view coming in on aviation. Just 3 minutes left to go before we kickstart a brand new series. Let's take it across to Siddharth, find out